You know that feeling, right? You get this amazing idea, it just clicks in your head.
Oh, yeah. Crystal clear.
Exactly. Perfectly clear inside your own mind.
Yeah.
But then you try and explain it.
And it just sort of fades or it comes out wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That clarity just seems to, well, evaporate. The picture in your head is sharp, but what you say is kind of fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you felt that frustration, that, gap between the idea and the words, you're definitely in the right place for this deep dive.
Absolutely. We're diving into how someone actually tackles this, someone who helps people bridge that exact gap.
Right.
Taking those raw, sometimes jumbled ideas
Yeah.
and helping shape them into something, well, clear, something compelling.
And they work with a really interesting mix of people, don't they?
Yeah, it's quite diverse. Entrepreneurs, people starting ministries or outreach programs, public service stuff, charities.
Community resources, all sorts.
Exactly. So our goal here really is to dig into the dynamics of articulating ideas, why it's hard, but also why it's so important.
Okay, let's start with that core problem then. This observation that what someone wants to say isn't always what comes out first. There's often this, disconnect between the core idea and the initial attempt to explain it.
Right. It's like the raw thought is pure, but the act of speaking it introduces static. Or maybe distortion is a better word.
Have you seen that yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. You're translating this complex, maybe intuitive, internal thing into linear language, step-by-step words. Our brains jump around, make connections.
Yeah, not always easy to explain that path.
Exactly. So even a brilliant idea can sound a bit, well, flat at first.
Like trying to describe a color to someone who can't see it?
Kind of. Or yeah, like your original script mentioned, capturing a 3D object in 2D. Something gets lost.
So to help with that first step, this person has this interesting approach, an initial deep dive.
Like this, basically. A recorded chat.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's offered for a donation. The focus isn't polish, right? It's discovery.
Exactly. Helping the person find their voice, find the core of what they're trying to say. What's the thinking there, starting with a donation?
Well, it seems like it lowers the pressure, maybe. Takes the stakes down a bit when you're just trying to get a fragile idea out.
That makes sense. The donation sort of acknowledges the emotional value, the personal investment in just exploring it.
Right. And it lets the facilitator, the person helping, just listen and pull out the key bits without worrying about a final product immediately.
It's discovery first, then refinement.
Okay, but then this is where it gets really interesting for me. The goal of that first recording isn't just to capture it raw.
Yeah.
No, it's to edit it, shape it, make it really punchy, give it that wow factor.
Ah, okay.
The idea is if the person hears their own vision presented powerfully, they'll see its value more clearly.
That's clever. So you show them the potential.
Exactly. But listen to the work involved. To get maybe a 15-minute polished deep dive from, say, an hour-long chat.
How much work?
Potentially up to 8 hours. Editing, structuring, producing.
Wow. 8 hours for 15 minutes. That's significant.
It really is. What do you think goes into that, making it wow?
Well, it's definitely not just cutting out the ums and ahs. It's finding the story.
The core narrative.
Yeah, structuring it so it flows, getting rid of the tangents, maybe pulling the best lines forward. It's like sculpting.
Sculpting, how so?
You start with this rough, block the raw conversation, and you carefully chip away, refine, until the real form, the compelling idea, emerges.
That's a great analogy. So that first polished version is like showing them the finished sculpture locked inside the stone.
Precisely. It demonstrates the power of the idea when it's communicated well.
But then the plot thickens. After that initial wow, that feeling of, yes, that's it.
Uh-oh. What happens?
Often the next step is wanting lots of changes, edits, tweaks.
Ah, the revision rounds.
Yeah. But what's interesting is how this person sees it not as a problem, but as just human nature, part of creating anything.
That makes sense. Once you see it or hear it made real.
You see it differently.
Exactly. It becomes tangible, something you can properly evaluate. New angles appear, you think of better ways to phrase things.
So the first version unlocks a deeper level of thinking about it.
I think so. It's like getting a prototype back from the workshop.
Yeah.
Now you can really kick the tires, see what needs adjusting. It shows engagement, wanting it to be even better.
It's not dissatisfaction, it's refinement.
Right. The creative process is iterative.
So how do they manage that refinement stage? Because that could go on forever.
Well, this is where the structure comes in.
Yeah.
Very clear pricing for edits, paid up front.
Okay, what does that look like?
It's tiered, like $60 for a quick fix, up to half an hour. Yeah. $165 for, say, 30 to 90 minutes.
Got it.
Then $325 for a bigger block, up to 4 hours. Yeah. And for major stuff, it's like $465 plus any expenses, plus an ongoing hourly rate.
And the key is telling people this before they start asking for changes.
Absolutely. Total transparency. Why do you think that's so critical?
Well, it avoids awkwardness later, for one. Everyone knows where they stand.
Right. It respects the creator's time and skill. Making changes, even small ones, takes real effort and focus.
And for the person with the idea, they know the cost of chasing perfection, so they can decide how much refinement they really want or need.
Keeps it professional. Prevents scope creep.
Which leads nicely into that analogy they use, the mechanic one.
Ah, yeah, the certified mechanic versus the backyard mechanic.
Explain that a bit. How does that relate to creative work pricing?
Well, it highlights that you're paying for more than just the raw time, right? Mm-hmm. A certified mechanic has the training, the proper tools, the diagnostic equipment, insurance, the overhead of the garage.
Okay.
The backyard guy might be cheaper, but you don't get the same guarantees or, maybe the same level of expertise or resources.
So applying that here, the editing fees reflect the professional setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The skills, the software licenses, the powerful computer needed for editing, the time spent learning how to do it well, the overhead. It's all built in.
So the initial donation is like acknowledging the maybe emotional value of getting the idea sparked.
And the subsequent fees cover the skilled labor, the wrench time essentially, of the detailed revisions.
That makes a lot of sense. It separates the initial exploratory phase from the detailed production work.
Yeah, it frames the value differently at each stage.
Now, what about things they can't do? Limitations are important too.
Very. And this person is apparently really upfront about that.
Like specific technical stuff? Complex effects?
Yeah, things like that. If it's outside their current toolkit or expertise, they say so. No pretending.
And if a client really wants something new researched or a new tool bought,
then the expectation is payment up front for that exploration or acquisition.
Why is that honesty so vital? Seems obvious, but
it builds trust, doesn't it? If you know someone will tell you straight up, I can't do that, or that would require X, you trust them more when they say what they can do.
True. Avoids overpromising.
And protects everyone. The creator isn't stressed trying to learn something complex on the fly, and the client doesn't get disappointed. Sets realistic boundaries.
Okay, and the final piece seems to be this insistence on prepayment for the edit work.
Right. Paying before the revision work starts.
What's the core reason for that? Fairness.
Fairness, definitely. Respect for the creator's time. Once editing starts, that time is committed. And it ensures the client is serious about the changes they're asking for. There's a commitment on their side, too.
And it probably prevents that scenario where someone asks for 10 rounds of changes.
It explores every possible avenue.
And then says, you know what, I like the first version best.
Exactly. Which can happen. But the creator's time spent on all those intermediate versions still needs to be valued. Prepayment covers that.
It just ensures a fair exchange for the time invested, regardless of the final decision.
Yeah, it's a practical way to manage what can be a very subjective and potentially time-consuming part of the process.
So let's kind of pull this all together as we wrap up. We've journeyed from that initial idea, that spark.
That often feels so clear internally.
To the challenge of actually getting it out clearly. Then that wow moment when it is articulated well.
And the emotional connection that creates, a sense of value.
Followed by the natural human desire to refine, to tweak, to make it even better.
Which brings in the practical side, the time, the skill, the cost of revisions, and needing clear expectations and boundaries.
It really shows that getting an idea heard effectively isn't just about having the idea.
Not at all. It's a whole process of translating, shaping, refining. It takes work, collaboration, and a mutual understanding of the value involved.
Open communication, realistic expectations.
And valuing both the vision and the expertise needed to communicate it.
So the final thought for everyone listening, thinking about these dynamics, the idea versus articulation gap, the power of that first clear version, the whole revision cycle, how can understanding this help you when you're trying to get your own ideas across? Whether it's, a work project, a community thing, something personal.
It makes you think about the value you put on communication itself, doesn't it? Not just the idea.
Right. It's not just about the final output, but appreciating the often invisible work and thinking that goes into making communication effective. This deep dive hopefully gives a bit of a framework for seeing that whole journey.
My name is Merle Mac Moore. My phone number is 425-931-9226.